Amazing what faith can do. Hallelujah. 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 I said it's amazing what faith can do. Hallelujah. I want to encourage somebody today by sharing a death experience. Yes, it happened in 2003. In 2003, doctors saw cancer cells in the cervix. Yes, yes. And they decided to do a biopsy. And I would say it went well until I went home. I was given instruction that when I went home, I was supposed to do something. And while I was doing what I was instructed to do, I started to feel some terrible, terrible, terrible pain. I started to bleed. And it wasn't no normal bleeding. I can't remember how many towels. But I can't remember I have to lie in the bathroom on the floor until help comes because I couldn't move. And when I was placed on the bed, the towels was soaked. The mattress was soaked. I was just bleeding. And I was asked to go back to the medical center because I didn't do the surgery in the hospital. So I had to go back to the medical center. And this is where my faith journey began, brethren. This is where it began. I didn't have much faith then. But you only need a little faith, a little mustard seed faith, and you can move a mountain. So when I went back to the medical center, they could not do anything until a doctor arrives. I was in terrible pain, and they could not do nothing for me until a doctor arrives. When the doctor arrives, while I was there waiting, a brother in faith at the church where I used to attend back then, he ran to the church and he gathered all the prayer warriors and they began to pray. We know that prayer can change this thing, right? Okay. So they began to pray while I was there. When the doctor came, I remember getting an injection. And after I get the injection, remember I lost a lot of blood. I felt like a cube of ice just fell into my throat. That's how it felt, a cube of ice. So it was cold at the throat, very cold. And I started to travel. So I am going to tell you what the traveling experience felt like. I was on the bed, and it's like somebody was pushing the bed, and I was going in a circle. And I was going down in a circle. I was going down, down, down. On my way going down, I saw some pretty flowers. I saw some statues. They looked like snow. While I was going down in that circular motion, I remember I saw a shadow. I saw a shadow. And when I saw that shadow, I started coming back up in that circular motion. And I started coming up, coming back up, coming up. And the first thing that happened, my eyes opened. And I saw doctors and nurses at the bedside, but their faces were in a zigzag shape. And my voice came next. And I said, I want to talk to my mother. And the entire body was numb, tough. There was no life in the body. Only the eyesight came and the mouth and the voice. There was no life in the body. So they had to hold the phone at my ears. And I said, Mommy, I come back. But she didn't know what I was talking about. Because she didn't know that I went somewhere. And doctors say that I could go home. But because I had voice, I could speak. I said, do not take me home. And I gave instruction where I want to go. The life in the entire body did not come back until the next day. The entire body was tough until the very next day. And I wasn't so sure what took place. Only what I'm telling you. But other things took place. So when I went back there, I asked the nurse, what happened to me that night? She said, are you a Christian? I said, yes. He said to me, you were not conscious, but I hear you arguing with the Lord. You were arguing, you were asking, Lord, why me? Why me, Lord? Why me? And she said, she came inside the room and she held on to my hand and she said, give God thanks. And she said, you give God thanks. You were not conscious, but you give God thanks, you give God thanks, you give God thanks. And I thought you got saved. And it's during that period of thanksgiving that I came back to life. So, brethren, it is amazing what praises can do. And it is also amazing what faith can do. That church brother had faith. He believed in prayer. And that's why he ran to the church. And he asked them to come, let us gather together and pray. Because he knows that prayer changes things. And this is where my faith journey began. I oftentimes say I died and the Lord brought me back to life to fulfill my purpose for no other reason. He didn't bring me back to life for no other reason than to fulfill my purpose. So in 2009, when some gunman decided that they're going to launch an attack, they didn't know that purpose wasn't fulfilled as yet. So they planned. Yes, they planned. But while they were planning, the Lord was also planning to intervene. Yes, they held me up and took away the car that I was driving at that time. But I know that God intervened. And I'm standing here right now on top of my grave. They only took the car, but they could not take my life. Because God brought me back to life for a purpose.